Douglas Adams is one of my all-time favourite writers. From The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, in the form of books, TV show and radio series, to the Dirk Gently novels and the Starship Titanic video game, his ability to blend witty dialogue and complex sci-fi plots has always thoroughly appealed to me. And his latest Doctor Who story, City of Death, is one of my all-time favourites. But The Pirate Planet was one of his first scripts, and as such it still has a few rough edges, and could have done with another few drafts to iron out the flaws. But it's still a really entertaining piece of work all the same. The opening episodes are rather frustrating to watch, as a lot of things are thrown at the viewer with very little explanation. We don't even learn that the planet is called Zanuck until about the end of episode 2. There's the pirate captain, operating out of a castle rather than a ship. He certainly seems to be the villain, but then we also get the Mentiads, who seem every bit as sinister with all their mysterious chanting in caves. And the Doctor and Roman's attempts to find out what's going on are more humorous than effective. When the story does eventually get going, you do learn there are some excellent ideas behind it all. Zanuck being a pirate planet is extremely clever, though it does require quite a lot of laborious explanation to convey it all to the audience. Sadly, this is a few years before the Hitchhiker's TV show, so we don't get any on-screen graphics illustrating the whole process, which could have come in handy. Another excellent twist is the nurse turning out to be Queen Xanxia. She just turns up in the background in episode 2, and gradually becomes more and more prominent as the series goes on. In a lot of 1970s TV, young women were still only put on screen just to stand there and look pretty in the background. So this is quite a nice subversion of that old trope. The ending is a bit rushed. There are two extremely complicated plots, which are rushed through with very little explanation. That's both the captain's plan to turn the tables on the Queen, and whatever the Doctor does to save the day in the end. Both of those could have done with a lot more explanation, but there clearly wasn't time. We don't even get to see them discovering the second segment of the Key to Time. There's nothing wrong with breaking the format, but this is still only the second story of the season, so viewers haven't got used to it being the norm just yet. The regular cast are well served by the material. Tom Baker gets a lot of great comedy, as you might expect. In fact, a lot of dialogue here is very similar to that used in the first Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy story, which was being written at the same time, with exchanges like, "But I don't understand. Exciting, isn't it?" sounding very familiar. But the Doctor does also show his serious side for the first time in quite a long while. The scene where he confronts the captain about being responsible for the deaths of billions is played absolutely straight and is full of righteous anger. Romana also gets a lot to do, coolly proving that she is every bit as capable as the Doctor, both when operating the TARDIS and ingratiating herself with the locals, but also having no compunction about shooting a guard, which is not necessarily something the Doctor would do. And K9 is also used more effectively than usual, proving his worth in many scenes, not least his battle with the polyphase Avatron, which only suffers from them being too ambitious with the visual effects. You can certainly see why they went on to make Adam a script editor. Of the guest cast, the citizens of Zanuck are all pretty bland, though Kimmus does get the immortal line, "Brandaganus 5, by every breath in my body, you will be avenged," which I'm sure would be a highlight of his showreel. Bruce Purchase as the captain is rather too shouty to start with, and it does get a bit annoying. Towards the end you do begin to get the sense that he's just putting it on as a front, but it's all a bit too late to be fully convincing. Andrew Robertson as Mr. Fibuli gives a much more nuanced performance throughout, kind of like the Smithers to the captain's Mr. Burns. And Rosalind Lloyd is very impressive once her true nature is revealed, able to rise to the challenge of becoming the final villain. The DVD has about an hour of extras. There's the usual half-hour Talking Heads documentary. We get Douglas Adams' half-brother reminiscing, and also bringing along an old tape of him being interviewed, which is rather interesting. There's 14 minutes of deleted scenes, most of which are just slightly longer versions of the film footage. And there's weird science, sadly nothing to do with Kelly LeBrock, but a spoof 1970s kids science show, much like Look Around You, only nowhere near as good. It just goes to show that mixing science fiction and comedy is very hard to get right. Overall, it's got a lot of good ideas, but they're not executed nearly as well as you would want them to be. So I can only give it a 7. Next week it's Back to Earth for the Stones of Blood. I seem to remember that one being pretty good as well. As usual, check out the link in the description for my playlist of all my Doctor Who reviews so far. And I'll see you next time.